Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Brendan and we are officially back, and let me just say we're back with some pretty massive news because what we have here is hundreds of millions of dollars flowing into crypto, major adoption moves that are happening around the world, and technically on Bitcoin's chart, Bitcoin is at a very important resistance point, and if it breaks here, this could cause the next major move in Bitcoin that might even bring it up to $40,000. So there's going to be a lot to digest, and again, I want to really specifically hone in on where these investments are going into. Is it going into Bitcoin? Is it going to Web3? How are we going to see this kind of buying, and what it could ultimately do to the prices of a lot of the crypto projects that we all know and love. So if that sounds interesting, make sure you stick around for the entire length of this video, as there will be important information discussed the entire way through. So let's start things off on a very bullish note with the massive amount of funding that we just saw happen really just, I think it was yesterday. So what we saw is that the crypto protocol Layer 0 raised $120 million to their newfound $3 billion evaluation. Now, if you're saying, Brendan, we've seen this kind of money before, you are correct, but especially at where we are at in the market right now, it's a lot less likely, or it's a lot more rare that we see these kind of large figures getting thrown around. Now, the other important thing to note is that despite all of this, the value is triple the level that they were a year ago in March 2022. So about a year ago, Layer 0 was estimated to be at around a $1 billion valuation. This means that during the bear market, one of the worst bear markets that crypto has ever seen, they were able to triple their value because of their value proposition and the value that they are going to be providing and are already providing. Now let's talk a little bit about what Value 0 is. Again, I'm not sponsored by them, but this was just a really big piece of the news. So Layer 0 offers interoperability and cross-chain messaging infrastructure that allow for decentralized application developers to reach multiple blockchains without the need for a middleman, which is massive. Now they're doing this so that they can facilitate cross-chain interactions. And when the Layer 0 team came out and they were asked, like, how can you self-describe yourself? In this quote, they said Layer 0 is to blockchains what the internet was to computing clusters. Layer 0 allows chains to not only build bridges to transfer assets and the value between them, but to also send and execute arbitrary data just like a packet on the internet. So if that better explains, that kind of analogy helps you get the picture of what they're working to do, this is important because there is massive stuff happening in the background. A lot of the time we see the price move, but we don't really understand the infrastructure and the foundation that is being laid for the next major bull market cycle. And this is just one of them. Again, I'm not saying that like you should go buy this, anything like that. I'm just saying that there are big things happening in the background and massive amounts of funding are coming in. Now, over the course of this year, a lot of the funding that we saw was coming from the Middle East. We look at Saudi, we look at what's happening in the United Arab Emirates, places like that, and places that are very wealthy in nature. And what they have to do now is they actually have to disclose their investments across the venture capital space. And what it turns out is that many of these are in crypto, including the Saudi Arabia's $620 billion wealth fund that we're talking about here. So what we have is we have these billion-dollar funds, these multi-billion-dollar funds that are pretty heavily invested in crypto. And previously, we didn't know this unless they self-disclosed. But now that they are being kind of forced to disclose almost, what we're seeing is that they are a lot more bullish about crypto. And they're very invested in crypto, a lot more than we might have thought. So previously, there might have been a narrative that crypto just wasn't as big over there, or we didn't know exactly how big it was because of India's stance on crypto. But what we're seeing now is that the Middle East is looking like they are pretty heavily invested. So it's no longer a thing where it's just like, oh, America's big on this, the UK's big on this, South Korea and Japan might be big on this. No, now it's the case where we're looking around the world and we're seeing every continent, whether it's, Africa, South America, North America, Europe, Asia, doesn't matter. We are seeing crypto adoption growing at a pretty large scale despite us being in this bear market. Now, on top of this, MicroStrategy is adding another 1,045 Bitcoin to its crypto treasury, and CoinHub is going to be installing over 1,000 Bitcoin ATMs at gas station. Again, all of this is happening in the bear market, so it has to kind of, again, your brain has to start turning here and saying, okay, well, this is big money. We're talking about like Saudi's multi-$100 billion wealth fund, these companies that are getting hundreds of millions of dollars in capital that's being raised. MicroStrategy's adding, ATMs are going to be exploding all over the place, crypto ATMs. Is this a sign that maybe the bottom is in, or at least some sort of short-term bottom? And I think that's just something that you have to ask yourself and say, okay, well, if I am waiting to make a long-term decision, what am I waiting for here? Am I waiting for good news? Because it seems like we're getting a lot of it. Again, nothing I say here is legal, financial, or tax advice, but just something to think about. Look at the news, see what's happening. I know people are scared of regulation. That's always a factor to consider. But let's look at the Bitcoin chart. So with what's happening over here on Bitcoin's chart, what we can see is that we are at a very, very major level of resistance, right? I want to zoom out just a little bit so that we can see exactly what this level is. Because what this is a previous support area from the bottom of this little consolidation range, right? We came down here from this Terra Luna crash last year, looked all the way down, then consolidated at this area for time. This is a previous support level that has now very clearly turned into a resistance level, and this is nothing new. This has been the name of the game for Bitcoin for the bulk of this year. Previous support has turned into resistance, and that's just been the name of the game. The difference here is that now we're on a little bit of an uptrend instead of on this downtrend that we were in. So things are shifting, and we're now being able to break through some of these levels. We saw this happen once, and we're now looking to make magic happen again on Bitcoin. So again, this $29,000 resistance area is one that we had already talked about in previous videos, but now that we are retesting this is going to be a pivotal one for us to watch, because if Bitcoin is able to break here, and if we want to zoom in, we can see the sheer amount of daily candles that Bitcoin has bounced off of this area is ridiculous. I mean, we have what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I mean, somewhere between 15 and 20 different daily candles that have all been rejected and closed below this zone over here. So quite a few of them. And so this is where we're kind of wondering, okay, well, if Bitcoin is able to break here, where is the most likely spot for it to go next? And that would be the top of this consolidation zone, which is the bottom of another zone. And so to kind of give this a holistic view, again, all that we're doing is moving from this area that was previously a support, now turned to resistance, to the next area, the prior area that was previously a support, now turned into a resistance, because we saw bounce, and then the rejection. So that next area would put Bitcoin at around $33,000, 32 to 33,000. So if Bitcoin's able to break here, then what we could see is maybe a rise in Bitcoin back into the $30,000 and really put it at the right direction. So there's a lot of really big events happening, and even if it rejects here, we can look lower towards our prior resistance of around $25,000, where we also have the 50-day moving average, and we also have the 200-day moving average below all of this, with a beautiful golden cross that has kind of signified this rally. Ever since this golden cross happened, it's been a very relatively nice uptrend for Bitcoin. So we're looking for some continuation here. Maybe we retrace back to this 50-day moving average, back to support over here, and then we rally through this thing. I don't think that it's unlikely that we do retrace, but I want to hold this macro bullish trend that we have on Bitcoin, because it looks like it wants to put in some sort of reversal here, and it's looking good so far. The news is good. The technicals don't look awful, other than us quite literally sitting on top of resistance right now. But the bulk of this information when it comes to crypto at the moment is not awfully bad. We spent a lot of time being bearish over the last year, so it's nice to kind of flip that on its head and look at the bullish happenings that are out there. So that's going to go ahead and wrap us up for this video, everyone. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, make sure you smack that like button, smack that subscribe button. We have another video coming on Friday where we're going to be talking about the altcoin market specifically, and we're going to be taking a look at the total 2 chart because that one is on the brink of explosion, and there's a lot of conversation around the topic of Bitcoin dominance that I want to address. So that's going to wrap us up here. Thank you all for watching, and see you all on Friday.